Antoni Gaudí. His very name evokes images of spiraling towers, flowing organic forms, and a deep intertwining of nature and architecture. But Gaudí is so much more than just an architect. His work was driven by a spiritual vision, a quest for harmony, and a desire to connect humanity with the divine. His influence remains etched into the very fabric of Barcelona, but what truly fascinates is how his deep Catholic faith may have intertwined with other philosophical and spiritual traditions, particularly Buddhist principles. Could it be that Gaudí's monumental creations express a broader, more universal understanding of spirituality? Could his genius have been nourished by ideas that transcended the boundaries of religion, seeking unity between East and West? As we explore his life, his work, and his spiritual philosophy, we can begin to appreciate just how extraordinary his vision was. Gaudí's early life and spiritual foundations. The seeds of genius. Antoni Gaudí was born on June 25, 1852, in the small Catalonian town of Reus. The youngest of 5 children, Gaudí grew up in a family of coppersmiths, and it was through this craft that he first developed his sensitivity to forms, textures, and the natural world. His father's work with metals, shaping and crafting them into functional art, had a profound influence on young Gaudí. From a young age, Antoni was captivated by the shapes and forms found in nature. You can almost picture him, a curious boy, wandering through the Catalonian countryside, observing the spirals of snail shells, the towering heights of trees, and the intricate patterns of leaves. Could it have been here, in nature's classroom, that Gaudí first glimpsed the divine? But nature wasn't the only teacher shaping Gaudí's vision. His upbringing was steeped in Catholicism, a faith that would later become a guiding force in his life and work. However, it wasn't just the rituals of Catholicism that attracted Gaudí, it was the deeper, more mystical questions that religion provoked. What is the nature of the divine? How is the universe connected? Gaudí's curiosity about the mysteries of existence went beyond mere dogma. Even in his youth, he sought answers that went beyond the boundaries of traditional faith. He was driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, not just about architecture, but about life itself. Could this search for deeper understanding have led him, perhaps unknowingly, toward Buddhist ideas of interconnectedness and impermanence? In 1873, Gaudí moved to Barcelona to study at the Escola Tècnica Superior d'Arquitectura. His time there was marked by an inner struggle, as he found it difficult to conform to the rigid academic expectations of the time. Yet, this period was also one of immense creativity and growth. Gaudí's professors recognized his extraordinary talent, describing him as either a madman or a genius. What a fascinating paradox. Isn't it incredible how such brilliance often teeters on the edge of the unimaginable? During these formative years, Gaudí's spirituality began to evolve, his creative genius intertwining more and more with his faith. By the time he took over the design of the Sagrada Família in 1883, Gaudí was no longer just an architect, he was an artist, a visionary, and above all, a spiritual seeker. Nature as the ultimate teacher. The interplay between Gaudí's work and Buddhist thought. Gaudí's reverence for nature is one of the most defining aspects of his work. It's impossible to consider his architecture without marveling at the organic forms, the flowing lines, the seamless integration of his buildings into their surroundings. For Gaudí, nature wasn't just an inspiration, it was a sacred text, a reflection of the divine. He believed that by studying nature, architects could create structures that were in harmony with the environment, mirroring the intricate designs found in the natural world. The deep spirituality behind this belief aligns remarkably with Buddhist teachings, which emphasize the interconnectedness of all living things and the importance of living in balance with nature. In Buddhism, nature is far more than just the backdrop to human life, it's a crucial part of the spiritual journey. Think of the Buddha himself, who attained enlightenment while sitting beneath the Bodhi tree. The natural world plays a central role in Buddhist practice, serving as both teacher and guide. Could Gaudí, who so deeply immersed himself in the study of nature, have unconsciously absorbed some of these principles? Take, for example, the columns of the Sagrada Família, which Gaudí designed to resemble trees. As you walk through the basilica, you feel as though you've entered a mystical forest. The columns rise toward the ceiling, branching out like a canopy of leaves. Isn't it astonishing how Gaudí was able to create such a sense of harmony between architecture and the natural world? It's as if the building itself is alive, breathing and growing in communion with nature. This, too, reflects a core Buddhist belief, that all things are interconnected, that everything in the universe is part of a larger, interdependent whole. Doesn't this evoke a sense of awe? Could Gaudí have been subtly influenced by the Buddhist understanding of unity and the oneness of existence? Organic forms and the Buddhist principle of interconnectedness. One of the most fundamental teachings of Buddhism is the concept of pratītyasamutpāda or dependent origination. It is the idea that nothing exists in isolation, that all things are interconnected and interdependent. This philosophy can be seen throughout Gaudí's work, particularly in his use of organic forms. His buildings seem to flow effortlessly from one element to another, creating a sense of unity and cohesion. The Sagrada Família is a perfect example of this. Every part of the structure is connected, from the columns to the walls to the roof, working together as part of a larger, interconnected system. Isn't it breathtaking how Gaudí's vision mirrors the Buddhist understanding that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts? Gaudí's devotion to creating harmony between architecture and nature also echoes the Buddhist principle of ahimsa or nonviolence. In Buddhism, ahimsa extends not only to living beings but also to the environment. Gaudí's designs reflect this philosophy in his deep respect for nature. He sought to create buildings that complemented their surroundings, rather than imposing upon them. You can see this in his use of natural materials, stone, wood, ceramics, carefully chosen to minimize the environmental impact of his structures. Could it be that Gaudí, even without consciously studying Buddhism, was aligning his work with these deeply spiritual principles? The role of light in Gaudí's work, a metaphor for spiritual enlightenment. Light. It's not just a functional element in Gaudí's architecture, it's a profound spiritual symbol. In many of his designs, light is used to create a transcendent, almost otherworldly atmosphere. Think of the Sagrada Família and its stunning stained glass windows. The way the light filters through the colored glass, casting hues of blues, reds, and greens across the interior, it's as if you've stepped into a different realm. What is it about light that touches our souls so deeply? In Gaudí's hands, light becomes a metaphor for divine presence, for spiritual awakening, for the transcendent beauty of life itself. In Buddhism, too, light holds immense symbolic significance. The Buddha is often referred to as the light of Asia. And light is commonly used as a metaphor for wisdom, clarity, and enlightenment. Isn't it fascinating how both Gaudí and Buddhist teachings use light as a symbol for the same spiritual truths? Gaudí's use of light in his architecture seems to echo this sentiment, creating spaces that are not only physically illuminated but spiritually enlightening. Could it be that, in his designs, Gaudí was guiding us toward a higher understanding of ourselves, of the world, and of the divine? The interplay of light and shadow in Gaudí's buildings also evokes the Buddhist concept of duality, the idea that light and darkness, like all dualities, are interdependent. One cannot exist without the other. In the same way, the contrast between light and shadow in Gaudí's designs creates a dynamic environment that is constantly changing, just as life itself is in a state of continuous flux. Isn't it incredible how architecture can evoke such profound spiritual reflections? Could Gaudí, through his use of light, have been inviting us to contemplate the deeper mysteries of existence, impermanence, and non-attachment? In Gaudí's vision, at the heart of Buddhist philosophy lies the concept of impermanence, or anicca. It teaches that all things are in a constant state of change, and that nothing is permanent. This understanding is closely tied to the concept of non-attachment, which teaches that clinging to things, whether they be material possessions, ideas, or even life itself, leads to suffering. Gaudí's work reflects this understanding of impermanence in ways that are both subtle and profound. First, consider the Sagrada Família itself. Begun in 1882, the basilica remains unfinished to this day. Gaudí was fully aware that he would not live to see its completion, yet he embraced this reality with a sense of peace and acceptance. He once remarked, "My client is not in a hurry," referring to God. How remarkable is that? Gaudí wasn't concerned with completing the project in his lifetime. He saw his work as part of something much larger than himself, something that would continue to evolve long after he was gone. Isn't this attitude of non-attachment a reflection of Buddhist wisdom? Could Gaudí have been teaching us that true beauty lies not in the finished product, but in the journey, in the process of creation itself? Moreover, Gaudí's designs often incorporate irregularities and asymmetries, reflecting the imperfection and impermanence of the natural world. In Casa Mila, for example, the undulating facade and irregularly shaped windows and balconies give the building a dynamic, ever-changing appearance. This fluidity and openness to change are deeply aligned with the Buddhist understanding that life is in a constant state of flux, and that seeking permanence is futile. Isn't it inspiring to see how Gaudí's work embraces the beauty of imperfection and change? Could he have been encouraging us to let go of our attachment to stability and to find peace in life's ever-shifting landscape? The unfinished Sagrada Família, a monument to impermanence. The Sagrada Família stands as perhaps the most profound expression of Gaudí's acceptance of impermanence. Even now, more than 140 years after construction began, the basilica remains unfinished, with an estimated completion date of 2026. Some might view this as a flaw, but to those who understand the deeper spiritual significance, it's a powerful symbol of life's impermanence. In Buddhism, the acceptance of impermanence is a key step on the path to enlightenment. By acknowledging that nothing is permanent, we free ourselves from the suffering that comes from clinging to things that will inevitably change. Gaudí's willingness to leave the completion of the Sagrada Família to future generations demonstrates his own acceptance of impermanence, as well as his faith in the continuity of life beyond his own existence. Isn't it humbling to think that Gaudí was able to let go of his attachment to the outcome of his work, trusting that others would carry on his vision after he was gone? Could this be a reflection of his own spiritual journey, one that embraced the Buddhist teaching that life is a cycle of birth, death, and rebirth? Gaudí's synthesis of Catholicism and Buddhist thought, a universal spiritual vision. While Gaudí's Catholic faith was undeniably the primary influence on his work, there are striking parallels between his architectural philosophy and Buddhist principles. His emphasis on harmony with nature, his acceptance of impermanence, and his use of light as a metaphor for spiritual awakening suggest a broader, more inclusive spiritual vision, one that transcends the boundaries of any single religious tradition. Catholic symbolism and a universal spirituality. There's no denying that the Sagrada Família is a Catholic monument, filled with Christian symbolism and designed to reflect the teachings of the Church. But there's also something more, something deeper, that resonates with a universal spirituality. Gaudí's use of natural forms, his emphasis on interconnectedness, and his acceptance of impermanence all suggest that his work was informed by a broader spiritual perspective, one that aligns with Buddhist philosophy. In this sense, Gaudí's work can be seen as a synthesis of Catholic and Buddhist ideas. While the religious iconography in his buildings is distinctly Christian, the underlying themes of harmony, impermanence, and non-attachment are universal in nature. Isn't it fascinating to think that Gaudí's work could serve as a bridge between East and West, between Catholicism and Buddhism, between the sacred and the everyday? Could this be the reason why his buildings continue to inspire awe and wonder in people from all walks of life, regardless of their religious beliefs? Meditation and contemplation, the spiritual heart of Gaudí's work. Another striking parallel between Gaudí's work and Buddhist principles is the emphasis on meditation and contemplation. Many of Gaudí's buildings, particularly the Sagrada Família, are designed to create a sense of awe and wonder, inviting visitors to pause, reflect, and contemplate the mysteries of existence. The play of light, the organic forms, the intricate details, all of these elements work together to create an environment that encourages mindfulness and introspection, in Buddhism, meditation is a central practice that helps individuals cultivate mindfulness and develop a deeper understanding of the nature of reality. Could it be that Gaudí's architecture, with its focus on creating spaces that inspire contemplation, is an extension of this practice? His buildings are not just functional spaces, they are sacred spaces. Designed to evoke a sense of the divine and to encourage visitors to connect with something greater than themselves, the broader influence of Eastern philosophy on Gaudí's time. Gaudí lived during a time of great intellectual and cultural exchange between East and West. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, European scholars, artists, and thinkers became increasingly interested in Eastern philosophies, particularly Buddhism, Taoism, and Hinduism. This period saw the translation of key Buddhist texts into European languages and a growing fascination with Eastern spiritual practices. Could it be that Gaudí, living in the midst of this cultural exchange, was influenced by these ideas? While there is no direct evidence that Gaudí studied Buddhism, it's likely that he was exposed to these ideas through the intellectual currents of his time. The organic, flowing nature of his designs, his emphasis on harmony with nature, and his acceptance of impermanence all suggest that he may have been influenced by Eastern thought, either consciously or subconsciously. Isn't it remarkable how ideas can travel across cultures and continents, subtly shaping the work of even the most devoutly Catholic artists, a reflection of a broader spiritual movement? Moreover, Gaudí's willingness to explore different spiritual traditions reflects a broader trend in late 19th century Europe, where many intellectuals sought alternatives to the rigid doctrines of Christianity. Figures like Friedrich Nietzsche, Arthur Schopenhauer, and even Carl Jung explored Eastern philosophies as a way of understanding the human experience from a new perspective. Could Gaudí's openness to spiritual exploration place him within this larger movement of intellectual curiosity and cross-cultural exchange? Isn't it incredible to think of Gaudí as not just an architect, but as a spiritual seeker, a bridge between cultures, and a pioneer of a more universal understanding of the divine? Conclusion: Antoni Gaudí's architecture as a bridge between East and West. Antoni Gaudí was, above all, a man of deep faith. But his spirituality was not confined to the teachings of the Catholic Church. His profound connection with nature, his understanding of the impermanence of life, and his desire to create spaces that inspire contemplation suggest a broader spiritual vision, one that resonates with both Catholic and Buddhist principles. Gaudí's architecture offers a bridge between East and West, between the sacred and the everyday. His buildings, with their organic forms and symbolic depth, invite us to reflect on the mysteries of existence, to contemplate our place in the universe, and to find peace in the present moment. In this way, Gaudí's work transcends the boundaries of religion and speaks to the universal human quest for meaning, harmony, and enlightenment. As we walk through the towering columns of the Sagrada Família, or sit on the sinuous benches of Park Güell, we are reminded that life is a journey, not a destination. Gaudí's architecture, like Buddhism, teaches us to embrace the impermanence of life, to live in harmony with the natural world, and to find beauty in the ever-changing, interconnected fabric of existence. His legacy is not just in the buildings he left behind, but in the spiritual lessons they continue to impart, inspiring generations to look beyond the material world and seek the deeper truths that lie within. What a journey it has been, walking in the footsteps of Gaudí. Could we ever look at his work in the same way again? Knowing now how deeply intertwined it is with the great spiritual traditions of the world? Isn't it amazing how a single man's vision could touch upon truths so universal, truths that speak to all of us, no matter where we come from or what we believe? Gaudí's work is a testament to the power of creativity, spirituality, and the boundless connections that unite us all.